Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day, 38 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. And we are moving on today, devotees, to chapter 23, the Shishuma planetary systems. Right, let us begin with our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadejatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Right, yes, so chapter 23, the Shishuma planetary systems. So, devotees, this is the shortest chapter, I think, that I've seen so far in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 9 verses only. But anyway, we'll do it, we'll get into it. So there are 9 verses. We've divided them into 4 sections. First section is called the position of Dhruva Loka. It's verse 1 to verse 3. Second section is just verse 4 on its own. The planets that revolve around Dhruva Loka resemble a shishumar, or dolphin. Dolphin is a type of sort of a fish, not exactly, a mammal, which is in the sea. Yeah, dolphin. Right. So then third section, description of the shishumar, the dolphin, verse 5 to verse 7. Then the fourth section, verses 8 and 9, the body of the Shishumar, considered an external form of Lord Vishnu. Okay, so let us begin. First section, verses 1, 2, and 3, the position of Dhruva Loka. Let's just have a look here. Okay, we'll read the verses first of all. Verse 1, Shukadeva Goswami continued, "My dear king, 1,300,000 yojanas, or 10,400,000 miles, above the planets of the 7 sages, is the place that learned scholars describe as the abode of Lord Vishnu. There, the son of Maharaj Uttanapad, the great devotee Maharaj Dhruva, still resides as the life source of all the living entities who live until the end of the creation. Agni, Indra, Prajapati, Kasyapa, and Dharma all assemble there to offer him honor and respectful obeisances. They circumambulate him with their right sides toward him. I've already described the glorious activities of Maharaj Dhruva in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Verse 2, established by the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pole star, which is the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, constantly shines as the central pivot for all the stars and planets. The unsleeping, invisible, most powerful time factor causes these luminaries to revolve around the pole star without cessation. Verse 3. When bulls are yoked together and tied to a central post to thresh rice, they tread around that pivot without deviating from their proper positions, one bull being closest to the post, another in the middle, and a third on the outside. Similarly, all the planets and all the hundreds and thousands of stars revolve around the pole star, the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, in their respective orbits, some higher and some lower. Fastened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of material nature, according to the results of their fruit of acts, they are driven around the pole star by the wind, and will continue to be so until the end of creation. These planets float in the air within the vast sky, just as clouds with hundreds of tons of water float in the air, or as the great Shiena eagles, due to the results of their past activities, fly high in the sky and have no chance of falling to the earth. Okay, here we go, devotees. So back we go to verse 1, the position of Dhruva Loka, verses 1 to 3. Verse 1, Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, 1,300,000 yojanas, or 10,400,000 miles, above the planets of the seven sages, is the place that learned scholars describe as the abode of Lord Vishnu. There the son of Maharaj Uttanapad, the great devotee Maharaj Dhruva, still resides as the life source of all the living entities who live until the end of the creation. Agni, Indra, Prajapati, Kashyapa, and Dharma all assemble there to offer him honor and respectful obeisances. They circumambulate him with their right sides toward him. I have already described the glorious activities of Maharaj Dhruva in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Verse 2. Established by the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pole star, which is the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, constantly shines as the central pivot for all the stars and planets. The unsleeping, invisible, most powerful time factor causes these luminaries to revolve around the pole star without cessation. So there's short purport here. So it's clearly said that all the luminaries, planets, stars, revolve by the influence of the time factor. And time factor is a feature of the Lord. Everyone's under it. But the Lord loves Dhruva so much that he placed all the luminaries under the control of his planet and arranged for time to work under him, under Dhruva, or with his cooperation. Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, everything is actually done according to the will and direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But to make his devotee Dhruva the most important individual within the universe, the Lord has placed the activities of the time factor under his control, under Dhruva's control. Now that's amazing. Verse 3, when bulls are yoked together and tied to a central post to thresh rice, they tread around that pivot without deviating from their proper positions, one bull being closest to the post, another in the middle, and a third on the outside. Similarly, all the planets and all the hundreds and thousands of stars revolve around the pole star, the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, in their respective orbits, some higher and some lower. Fastened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of material nature, according to the results of their fruitive acts, they are driven around the pole star by the wind, and will continue to be so until the end of creation. These planets float in the air within the vast sky, just as clouds with hundreds of tons of water float in the air, or as the great Shiena eagles, due to the results of past activities, fly high in the sky and have no chance of falling to the ground. Right, now devotees, there's long purport here. Long purport. Right, so let's go through it. So, Prabhupada begins by saying that according to this verse, all the stars and planets, everything up there, they're not under gravity or anything similar, as the scientists think. Actually, they're all servants of the Lord. They sit in their chariots and travel in their orbits. So their orbits are compared to machines given by material nature to the deities of those stars and planets, and they revolve around Dhruvaloka by the will of the Lord. Prabhupada refers to Brahma Samhita verse 52, Yachchakshuresha Savita Sakala Grahanam. It's glorifying the sun, actually. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. So there you go, Brahma Samhita confirms even the biggest planet, the sun, rotates in a fixed orbit, Kala Chakra, in obedience to the Lord's order. So this is nothing to do with gravity or any other imaginary laws of the scientists. Second paragraph. The material scientists, of course, their bottom line is really they want to avoid the rule of the Lord. So therefore they imagine different ideas about how planets move, how everything works. But actually the only thing is the order of the Lord. All the deities of the planets are people, and the Lord's also a person. And he orders them, carry out my will. So this is confirmed, devotees, in Would You Believe? Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, verse 10. Mayajakshena Prakriti. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it's producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Third paragraph. So the orbits of the planets, Prabhupada says, they're like the bodies, they resemble the bodies in which all living entities are seated, because they're both machines controlled by the Lord. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So this machine, which could be either our body or a planet, they're all machines. They work according to the orders of the Lord. So therefore the Lord and material nature together maintain the universe, and even actually millions of universes. Fourth paragraph. So the question of how planets and stars float, how they float, is also answered here. It's not because of gravity. Rather, it's by manipulation of the air. Due to manipulations of air, clouds float. Great eagles, not the usual ones, but the great eagles, which some of them even fly between planets. So they're really great eagles. So they float due to manipulations of the air. And even big planes float without falling to the earth. So it's all possible by Purusha and Prakriti working together. Material nature is Prakriti, female. The Lord is Purusha, male. Yes, so Prakriti is described in verse 44 of Brahma Samhita. Srishti stiti pralaya sadhana shaktir eka. The translation, the external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit, spiritual potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Yes, so material nature is also known as Durga, female energy, which protects the fort of the universe, because Durga also means fort. And the universe is like a fort in which all of us conditioned souls are kept. And we can't leave it unless we get the Lord's mercy. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 9, Janma karma chame divyam. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So simply by Krishna consciousness, or you could say the mercy of the Lord, one can be liberated, released from the fort or the prison of the universe. Then you can go outside it, go to the spiritual world. 5th paragraph, can you believe it? This is a big purport. So Prabhupada says, significant point. The deities of the planets, they got their posts, their positions, because of doing pious activities in their previous lives. And those activities are called karma niramita gataya. So, yes, it's been discussed just yesterday, I think, that the moon is called Jiva. He's a living entity like us, but due to his pious activities, he got the post of the moon god. And the same with all other demigods and all other living entities who have posts. They got them through service and piety. And only one of them, the sun god, Surya Narayan, is a form of the Lord. Dhruva is also a living entity like us, of course. So there are only 2 types of living entity. There's the Lord type and us type. So all the demigods, they're serving the Lord, and in this way the universe is going on. So, right, 6th paragraph. So the great eagles mentioned here are so big. Devotees, can you believe it? They hunt and kill and eat elephants. Elephants. They fly from planet to planet, and while flying they lay eggs, and the eggs, as they're falling through the air, they hatch. So in Sanskrit, they're called shyena. Now we can't see them, of course, but even now, eagles today, sometimes, they take monkeys, carry them up, and just drop them, and the monkeys die. They get smashed on the rocks, on the ground. And seventh paragraph. So the examples of the eagles and clouds prove that flying and floating are possible through adjustments of the air. Yes. And also of planets, because material nature adjusts the air as the Lord orders. And of course, some could say that these adjustments, they constitute the laws of gravity, but actually we should accept that they are laws made by the Lord. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the scientists can falsely, improperly declare that there is no God, but this is not a fact. So, right, the second section, which is just verse 4 on its own, the planets that revolve around Dhruvaloka resemble a shishumar, or a dolphin. Right, so verse 4, this great machine, consisting of the stars and planets, resembles the form of a shishumar, a dolphin in the water. It is sometimes considered an incarnation of Krishna, Vasudeva. Great yogis meditate upon Vasudeva in this form because it is actually visible. So let's look at Prabhupada's purport here, short purport. So the transcendentalists, like the yogis, those whose minds, they can't accept the form of the Lord. They like to visualize something great, like the universal form. So some of them contemplate this imaginary shishumar, dolphin, to be swimming in the sky, like dolphins swim in the sea. And Prabhupada says they meditate upon it as the Virat Rupa, the gigantic form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so now the third section, from verse 5 to verse 7, description of the Shishumar. So, okay, verses 5, 6, and 7, I'll just read through them because there are no purports. So this form of the Shishumar, or dolphin, has its head downward and its body coiled. On the end of its tail is the planet of Dhruva. On the body of its tail are the planets of the demigods, Prajapati, Agni, Indra, and Dharma. And at the base of its tail are the planets of the demigods Data and Vidata. Where the hips might be on the Shishuma, on the dolphin, are the 7 saintly sages like Vishishta and Angira. The coiled body of the Shishuma chakra turns towards its right side, on which the 14 constellations from Abhijit to Punarvasu are located. on its left side are the 14 stars from Pushya to Uttarashada. Thus its body is balanced, because its sides are occupied by an equal number of stars. On the back of the Shishuma, the dolphin, is the group of stars known as Ajaviti, and on its abdomen is the Ganges that flows in the sky, the Milky Way. Verse 6. On the right and left sides of where the loins might be on the Shishuma chakra are the stars named Punarvasu and Pushya. Adra and Ashlesha are on its right and left feet. Abhijit and Uttarashada are on its right and left nostrils. Shravana and Purvashada are at its right and left eyes, and Dhanishta and Mula are on its right and left ears. The 8 stars from Magha to Anuradha, which mark the southern course, are on the ribs of the left of its body, and the 8 stars from Mrigashirsha to Purvabhadra, which mark the northern course, are on the ribs on the right side. Shatabisha and Jeshta are on the right and left shoulders. Verse 7. On the upper chin of the Shishuma is Agasti, on its lower chin Yamaraj, on its mouth Mars, on its genitals Saturn, on the back of its neck Jupiter, on its chest the sun, and within the core of its heart Narayan. Within its mind is the moon, on its navel Venus, and on its breasts the Ashvini Kumars. Within its life ear, which is known as Pranapana, is Mercury. On its neck is Rahu. All over its body are comets, and in its pores are the numerous stars. Sure. Right, so there weren't any purports there. We move on to section 4, verses 8 and 9. The body of the Shishuma is considered an external form of Lord Vishnu. Right. Verses 8 and 9, of course, 9 is the last verse. So verse 8, my dear king, the body of the Shishuma, as thus described, should be considered the external form of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Morning, noon, and evening, one should silently observe the form of the Lord as the Shishuma chakra and worship him with this mantra: O Lord, who has assumed the form of time, O resting place of all the planets moving in different orbits, O Master of all demigods, O Supreme Person, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and meditate upon you. Verse 9. The body of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, which forms the Shishuma chakra, is the resting place of all the demigods and all the stars and planets. One who chants this mantra to worship that Supreme Person 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, will surely be freed from all sinful reactions. If one simply offers his obeisances to this form, or remembers this form 3 times a day, all his recent sinful activities will be destroyed. Yes, okay, so here we go. Srila Prabhupada's purport. So, Prabhupada points out that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur summarizes the entire description of the planetary systems of the universe. And in doing that, he says that one who is able to meditate upon this arrangement, the Shishumar chakra, this form of a dolphin, as one who can meditate on it as the universal form, Virat Rupa or Vishvarupa, as the external body of the Lord, and worship him 3 times a day by meditation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, such a devotee will always be free from sinful reactions. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur estimates that Dhruvaloka, the pole star, is 3,800,000 yojanas above the sun. Then 3,800,000, right? Then 10 million yojanas above Dhruvaloka is Mahaloka. 20 million yojanas above Mahaloka is Janaloka. 80 million yojanas above Janaloka is Tapaloka. And 120 million yojanas above Tapaloka is Satyaloka. Thus, the distance from the sun to Satyaloka is 233,800,000 yojanas, or 1,870,400,000 miles. So then the Vaikuntha planets begin, 26,200,000 yojanas, or 209,600,000 miles above Satyaloka. So the Vishnu Purana describes that the covering of the universe is 260 million yojanas, or 2,080,000,000 miles away from the sun. So the distance from the sun to the earth is 100,000 yojanas, and below the earth by 70,000 yojanas are the 7 lower planetary systems: Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Then below these lower planets by 30,000 yojanas, Sheshanag is lying on the Gabadak Ocean. And that ocean is 249,800,000 yojanas deep. Krishna. So Prabhupada concludes, thus, the total diameter of the universe is approximately 500 million yojanas, or 4 billion miles. Right. Sure. Unbelievable. And that's the end of chapter 23. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.